Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dr. Pai's Astrology channel. And this is Nav. And today we are back with our part two with Kṣaṇāti on our past life. And there was lots of good reviews that we got, and people really wanted us to dig deeper with different charts as well as their charts. So that we got so many emails, and we will be doing live video again, part three, to look at least 3 or 4 charts live and to go over those charts with the viewers. Welcome, Kṣaṇāti.
Thank you, Navji. It's such a blessing and pleasure to be back here with you and on Dr. Pai's channel. It's always my deepest honor. This research is very exciting, and I have also been very happy with the feedback from the community. Lots of emails with people's charts interested about their past lifetimes and their karmic cycle. And so that's why we're going to do a live part 3 for people who might not be able to afford a reading, but we still will be able to look at your charts live together and discuss your karmic cycle. And that will be very fun. We'll do that live together. Yeah. But today I have prepared 3 key examples to discuss the past lifetime cycle. And they're very interesting examples, some with very intense karma. So I hope everyone is prepared for some heavy karma to be discussed as we look into these 3 examples of their past lifetime karma and what might be coming of their souls through reincarnation.
Okay, thank you.
I've prepared a little PowerPoint presentation.
That's great.
Nav, does the presentation look well?
Yes, beautiful.
Okay, wonderful. So first we'll start with Albert Einstein, and we have his North and South Indian birth charts here. Now, as you notice, he is a Gemini ascendant with Mercury rulership. And when you look at his Mercury, it's debilitated and combust in Pisces, with Saturn, Sun, and an exalted Venus. So this is a very important aspect to discuss here. Now, as we look at his soul, as we look at his soul cycle, we can discuss from a past lifetime perspective. We want to look at his Ketu in Pushya in Cancer. So that's right here. And when we look at Ketu in Pushya, we can start to pick up on some past lifetime vibrations. And we also have to take a look at the second house positioning of Ketu. Now, from what I've picked up based on this indication, I think in his past lifetime, his soul emphasized his family. And it shows a lot of love of home and homeland and being a provider of the family, since the second house is one of the key houses of Arta. And he was always a genius. And we can see this by this crazy connection in his 10th house with 4 different planets, some exalted, some debilitated. But many of his past lifetimes, his work was unrelated to his intelligence. In other words, before he was Albert Einstein as a soul, he had many jobs that he didn't really get to use his intelligence for. So this is part of the past lifetime karma I was picking up from Albert Einstein. In this process, the bright and intelligent soul was unable to explore his gifts. He was unable to share his gifts. He was unable to give his gifts. So there's a lot of blocked karma from his past lifetimes coming through. And he was a servant to his family. And he felt he was the sole provider and that no one else contributed. So he had a lot of responsibility towards his family. And he was the kind of the person who had to have the job, no matter what it was, whether it used his intelligence or not, so that he could provide for his family. And so his family was considered also outcast due to their religious beliefs, was something I picked up on. And therefore his soul was also labeled as an outcast. And so there's a lot of outcast vibrations, despite his incredible intelligence and gifts. that come from Albert Einstein. We know this isn't a normal guy. So as we look at the next stage of his soul cycle, Mars is exalted conjunct with Rahu in Uttarashada, which is a Capricorn nakshatra, and his blocked expression of intelligence from many of his past lifetime build up as a samskara. And this samskara meant that his soul was waiting a lifetime in which he could show his power and his gifts to the world. So for many lifetimes, his intelligence was blocked as far as what he could do with his life. So his soul is just waiting to use his intellectual gifts and an opportunity to. So therefore, when he became Albert Einstein, the soul manifested as Albert Einstein, his intelligence, power, and gifts fully manifested through what we know as the theory of relativity, E equals mc squared. Now, this karma gets a little bit deeper as his research led to the creation of the atomic bomb. And although he did not intend for his research to be used that way, it was nonetheless used. And the atomic bomb could have not been created without Albert Einstein's research and without Albert Einstein's partial approval. So this is shown by the Mars-Rahu conjunction being very tight in the 8th house. So there's a tight connection with Mars with his Rahu karma. And we know that Mars is exalted in Capricorn, and that Mars is Skanda, the general of Lord Shiva's army, and is the great planet of war, the planet of destruction. Yeah. So he will have to carry this burden of his karma throughout future lifetimes as well. That means that even though his genius created this theory of relativity that was used to create the atomic bomb, would cause many, many people to die. So despite his incredible intelligence, he still has to deal with the karma of his research being used to create destruction and death. And you can see this being shown by his Mars-Rahu conjunction in the 8th house. So he's an incredibly brilliant man, but you can see how his research was used for negative purposes. And I don't have his D9 up here, but if you look at his D9's chart for his spiritual evolution and his future lifetimes, it shows us his gifts with his Jupiter moving to the 10th house, I believe, that purely humanitarian effort. So it kind of shows that in his life as Albert Einstein, he didn't protect his gifts from being used negatively. In his future lifetimes as a soul, his gifts will only be used to make the world a better place, but not for violence, war, or destruction or anything like that. And it was not his intention for his research to be used that way, but it happened to lead to the creation of the atomic bomb. So there is an intense karma there. Okay. So how did you like that example, Nav?
Yeah, it's really comprehensive, really good.
Okay, so next we'll take a look at Amy Winehouse. I don't know if you're a fan of her music. She was an English singer. She was incredibly talented. And she did not get to live her full life. And it's always, when we look at the soul cycle, I always like to kind of pick people who aren't currently here as examples, as well as people who are currently here, so we can kind of see where they are in their cycle, despite them not being here. So where they'll be in their next lifetime. Okay. So when we look at Amy, she is a Taurus Lagna with exalted Rahu in Mrigashira Nakshatra. Mm-hmm. And when we focus in on her past lifetimes, we look at Ketu in Jyeshta Nakshatra, which is Scorpio-based, conjunct with Jupiter, which is in Anuradha Nakshatra, in the 7th house of marriage. And so this is a very intense past lifetime energy. And am I correct that you're a Ketu? What's your ascendant, Nav?
I'm a Scorpio ascendant.
Yeah, yes. And is Ketu there?
Yeah, Ketu and Jupiter.
Yeah. So it's not So you can see some interesting energies, but her placement in the 7th house is going to be very different than your placement in the ascendancy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I pick up on the past lifetime vibrations of Amy and look at this positioning of these nakshatras in the 7th house, I believe her soul was the matriarch of her family, which means she was always married and devoted, purely and loyally to the husband. Now, if you listen to her current music, this may sound a little hard to believe, but from a past lifetime perspective, this is a very strong energy. I also believe she was in an arranged marriage and married to a good partner in a past lifetime. So despite the person being good because of the Jupiterian qualities, there was kind of a forced marriage upon her from the past lifetime. So this is a karma which also is getting embedded. So due to the Ketu Jupiter conjunction, she is a seeker of wisdom as was highly concerned with truth and the purpose of life. So she was also deeply philosophical, deeply metaphysical. But due to Jupiter's position in Anuradha, it shows depression from the arranged marriage, and we find a soul who's seeking love marriage. So if you're in your past lifetimes forced to marry somebody, naturally your soul is going to want to marry someone who you wish to marry instead of someone who you're forced to marry. Now, it doesn't mean that if you're forced to marry someone, you can't learn to love them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the soul doesn't yearn still for the love-based marriage of two people that are in love purely based on the conditions of their love and not the conditions of their family's choosing or their parents' choosing. And due to heavy repression of self-realization, because she was focused as a matriarch and her family marriage-oriented energies, there's a strong karma of self-realization in this lifetime, which we can show as her Rahu exalted in the ascendancy here. And she was born with many creative and unique gifts. We can see this as Venus Atmakarika in the 3rd house of expression, and Rahu also being exalted in the ascendant. So this gives an overwhelming amount of power and magnetic energy. In other words, charisma. So this is the kind of person, if you look at, if you listen to, you're going to want to look at, you're going to want to hear. So they have this magnetic quality to them. So she was poised for celebrity status and deep angst concerning her experiences in this lifetime because of Rahu being in the ascendant. Now, Rahu's aspect on the 7th house showing her freedom to love who she loves, but dealing with severe addiction and mental illness, because ideally, as a soul from her past lifetimes, she wants to be able to love who she wants to love based out of love. But on one side, you see a Saturn exalted in the 6th house, which can represent addiction. On the other side, you see the afflicted moon, which can represent mental illness. So she's trying to find her soulmate, but at the same time, she's struggling with addiction and mental illness at the same time. So in this lifetime, because of Rahu ascending, she develops her sense of identity, character, and personality, and learns who she is regardless of who she's told she is. And one thing we know about Amy Winehouse is she was a large personality. And she said, and she did not filter herself, and she was purely herself, and she got to know who she was. And sadly, due to the exalted Saturn in her 6th house and an afflicted moon in the 8th house, there is more self-realization to occur because she did not get to live her full lifetime and go through all her dasas to complete her karma or even get close to the completion of her karma. So when you look at her D9, I don't have it here, but it shows a strong spiritual evolution in her potential and future lifetimes, but she's still a Rahu ascendant in her D9.
Oh, okay.
This kind of shows, and Ketu would be in the 7th house. So this shows a cycle of repeating karma from the current lifetime to the next lifetime. So because she didn't finish the lesson learning the lessons she was given to learn because she died early from drugs, she has to come back in the next lifetime to learn similar lessons.
Okay. And when we're looking at the D9, and if someone has a Rahu Ketu axis in D9, that's their future life. And then D1, we're looking at the karmas they're completing in this lifetime.
Yeah, so if you have Rahu ascendant in the D9, it just means that your work in this lifetime is not complete.
Okay.
That there is still more work of a similar nature in the next life.
Okay. And even in D1, when someone, for instance, like has Rahu in the first house and then Ketu in the seventh house, it's basically their self, like they're going to have to focus on themselves and get like develop their personality and deeply get to connect with themselves. That's
and she was a household name at one point.
okay.
And, you know, she was a huge personality. And so as far as her development of character and identity, she really developed herself into quite the character. She was known for her sense of humor. She was known for her amazing music. She was known for her deeply touching lyrics, deeply moving lyrics.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So I think she's a nice example.
Yes. Really.
And then the third example, which I'd like to discuss, is my wife. Her spiritual name is Agra Devi. Her English name is Rachel. She's a Swati Libra ascendant with Jupiter also in Swati Nakshatra. Her Swati is ruled by Rahu, which will come in later. When we look at the past lifetime vibration, we'll see Ketu in Kritika Nakshatra, Taurus positioned in the 8th house, which represents deep ancestral power and wealth. So this position highly indicates a royal status in past lifetimes, such as a queen or a princess. So Ketu is debilitated in Taurus, however, representing a form of imprisonment in the past lifetimes. In other words, the life of a princess or queen is not always as much as it's cracked up to be. However, very different from typical imprisonment is the sense of queen who regulates and is stationed to her kingdom throughout her lifetime. So she has certain responsibilities related to where she's living. So she doesn't get to travel. She doesn't get to explore other religions. And so there's certain other things that by being a position of royalty, you kind of have certain obligations that you have to pay attention to. Now, Ketu's position in the 8th house suggests deep mystical curiosity from this soul and a desire to achieve moksha or enlightenment. Her royal position made it so that she had no choice over certain aspects of her life, including which religion she believed, who she was married to, the location that she lived in, and the general over-influence from the outside perspective, such as her father and her mother.
Okay.
Also, the 8th house representing death could show that some of her past lifetimes were short-lived. In other words, you know, due to whatever conditions, they didn't live the average life expectancy. Now, when you take a look at this current lifetime, you were born, the chart Agra Devi was born protected by Jupiter, and the Rahu influence indicates a deep desire to experience all what she was denied in her prior lifetimes. Again, we have Swati as her ascendant nakshatra, but Rahu is positioned in the 2nd house in Scorpio. We know that's debilitated and therefore indicates outsider positionship in this lifetime for herself as well as her family. Rahu position in the 2nd house also suggests in this lifetime she will complete her karma in terms of her unfulfilled desires from her past lifetime and establish success of her own religion. So she'll believe what she wants to believe. She'll marry who she wants to marry. She'll travel to where she wants to travel to, regardless of what she is told. Rahu in the 2nd house of wealth suggests financial stability without family will allow her to explore all of these different aspects which we talked about: religion, partner, I'm the lucky guy, and location. So this is some of the energy of her past lifetime in which she was kind of a royal figure, kind of trapped in the castle. And in this lifetime wants to travel the world, wants to marry who she chooses to marry, and wants to believe what she wants to believe spiritually without being told what to believe. Now, when I took a look at her D9, it returns her to her mystical orientation because 4 of the planets, including Rahu, goes in the 8th house and Ketu goes in the 6th house. So you see a reversal of the nodes. And this means an offering of various gifts to improve the conditions of the planets and its inhabitants. In her future lifetimes, I believe money will not be more important as her gifts will bring her great wealth. And Rahu is in the stellium in that 8th house, suggests a moksha orientation. So in this lifetime, she has lots of kama indications, lots of artha indications, and moksha is activated, but it's even more heavily activated through her D9. And so an overall look at her chart might suggest that money is a means to fulfill these unfulfilled desires. And once those desires are fulfilled, then she can return to focusing on moksha, non-attachment to this material world, and her spiritual evolution. But there is some artha and kama to complete in this lifetime, which we have described. So those are just 3 examples of past lifetime karma, which I wanted to share and discuss with all of you. I hope that was interesting to you, Navji. I hope that's interesting to all of our viewers. And in our next part, we're going to be going live with some of your charts that you send in, which is very, very exciting. So keep sending in your charts to Nav and I, and we'll pick a few of them out and we'll prepare them into a presentation, and we'll ask you to come into the session live with us to discuss your chart. It'll be very exciting. So I hope you enjoyed our examples. How did you enjoy those examples, Navji?
Yeah, they were really interesting and very comprehensive. And I liked the part D9 because everyone was asking about Rahu Ketu axis in D9. So I really enjoyed that. I also feel that maybe another video we can do on synastry with Rahu and Ketu in synastry in relationship.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I think that's something really everybody been asking about it, and also that would be really good and people to understand the relationship better. So with Ketu in the synastry, for example, with Venus or Rahu.
It is, because, you know, understanding the soul cycle, there's no better way to understand your partner.
Yes.
And it also shows compatibility in terms of, okay, well, is our soul on a similar cycle or is our soul on a different cycle?
Yes, and also where the other person is really coming from, right? Where their soul evolution is and
Right,
how it,
where their priorities may be.
yes, yes, that's a big one, yeah, to understand. Yeah.
So we just want to thank all the viewers for joining us. Thank you so much. It's such a blessing to be here, Navji, and to share this presentation with you. I can't wait forward to our next discussion. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you, Kṣaṇāti ji. Thank you to all the viewers for viewing our video, and please leave us comments, anything you guys would like to know, any questions, and we will definitely try to address this on our live part 3. Thank you.